The iridescent light of the Viridian chamber pulsed with an unsettling rhythm, mirroring the frantic data streams projected across its vast, crystalline dome. Elder Cathar stood at the central plinth, his 6 limbs trembling slightly as he surveyed the assembled representatives of the hegemony. Their forms, diverse in morphology and origin, were unified in their palpable disquiet. The chamber, usually a beacon of serene power, felt charged with an almost primal fear, a buzzing undercurrent that vibrated through the very floor beneath Cathar's splayed digits. Before them, a holographic projection shimmered, depicting a cluster of ragged, unidentifiable vessels, dwarfed by the majestic, pristine forms of the hegemony's outermost patrol fleet. The disparity was stark, almost comical, yet no laughter echoed in the sacred space. Only a profound, heavy silence, broken by the occasional, sharp intake of breathable gases from the delegates. Reanalyze the data prime astrogation. Elder Cathar's voice, usually a resonant bass, was edged with an almost imperceptible tremor. The request was redundant. The analysis had been performed countless times, each iteration yielding the same perplexing results. Confirm the composition of these vessels. A projected spectral analysis materialized, highlighting the crude, mismatched plating, the haphazard energy conduits, the apparent lack of standardized defensive arrays. The ships were a patchwork, an affront to the hegemony's centuries of refined engineering and aesthetic principles. They floated like derelicts, yet they were undeniably advancing, slowly but with an unnerving persistence, towards the established quarantine zone. These were the ships of the designation Humanity, an emergent species from the galactic fringe, largely ignored until their recent, unsettling expansion. Elder Cathar, Ambassador Velor of the Xyler Collective, chimed in, her multifaceted eyes narrowing with disdain. Her species, renowned for their intricate neural networks and logical precision, found the very existence of such disorganization offensive. The composition remains unchanged. Low-grade alloys, scavenged components, inconsistent energy signatures. Their propulsion system registers as a crude fusion drive variant, barely efficient enough to escape a planetary gravity well, let alone traverse interstellar distances with any meaningful velocity. The entire flotilla is an insult to the very concept of spacefaring civilization. A low murmur rippled through the chamber. The hegemony had long prided itself on its meticulous order, its vast, gleaming fleets patrolling territories forged over millennia of carefully negotiated treaties and strategic alliances. Their ships were works of art, technological marvels that projected an image of invincible power and sophisticated control. This human fleet was an anomaly, a blot on the pristine canvas of galactic order. And their numbers? Elder Cathar pressed, his gaze fixed on the holographic display where the junk fleet crept forward. The fear in the chamber was not of their numbers, which were relatively small compared to a single hegemony patrol wing, but of their sheer defiance of established norms. Inconsequential, stated Counselor ZHR of the Meccan Dominion, his metallic voice devoid of inflection. The Meccan Dominion, a society of synthesized intelligences, saw efficiency as the ultimate virtue. Their total combat potential, based on observed energy output and projected armament, is negligible. Our patrol fleet, currently engaging them in a limited communication protocol, possesses overwhelming superiority in every quantifiable metric. Shield strength, weapon yield, maneuverability, and strategic coordination. Then why, Elder Cathar's voice deepened, does the patrol fleet remain at maximum alert? Why has the commander requested an immediate strategic reinforcement, citing unprecedented tactical uncertainty? The question hung in the air, thick with unspoken apprehension. The hegemony did not experience tactical uncertainty when facing inferior opponents. Their protocols were exhaustive, their intelligence gathering unparalleled. Yet this species, these humans, managed to generate an anomaly in every predictive model. They refused to conform to expected behaviors. Their communication protocols are crude, began Ensign Tilar, a junior strategist whose antennae quivered with nervousness. They employ a simplified binary, lacking the harmonic complexities and multi-layered encryption of standard galactic languages. Their transmissions are direct and remarkably persistent. Persistent in what regard? Ambassador Velor interjected, her tone laced with impatience. They continue to reiterate their intention to pass through the quarantine zone, Tilar explained, referencing the shimmering red boundary projected onto the dome. They claim they possess no hostile intent but refuse to alter their trajectory. They also request permission to establish diplomatic contact with the hegemony despite the current standoff. A wave of incredulity swept through the chamber. To demand diplomatic contact while brazenly violating hegemony space with such an evidently inferior force was an act of almost childlike naivete or profound, calculated insolence. The Xyler ambassador let out a hiss of something akin to a laugh, a sound rarely heard in such solemn proceedings. Diplomatic contact with those scrap heaps? They are barbarians. A species that cannot even maintain structural integrity on its vessels has no place in the refined discourse of the hegemony. Perhaps they are desperate, offered Elder Cathar, his gaze still fixed on the slowly advancing human ships. Resource-starved, seeking new territories without understanding the established order. It was a charitable interpretation, one rooted in the hegemony's long history of guiding nascent civilizations, yet it felt hollow. There was no desperation in their broadcasts, only a calm, almost serene persistence that grated against the hegemony's expectations of panic or aggression. Desperation is a weakness, Ambassador Velor asserted. And weakness in the face of hegemonic might is unacceptable. We have given them ample warning. Our patrol fleet is fully authorized to engage should they breach the quarantine threshold. A swift, decisive demonstration of our capabilities will ensure they understand their place within the galactic order. The words hung heavy, carrying the weight of ancient laws and the unyielding will of the hegemony. The decision was logical, efficient, and entirely predictable. Yet Elder Cathar felt a prickle of unease, a sensation that transcended logic. He had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, observed the subtle patterns woven into the fabric of galactic history, and something about these humans felt different. Their defiance was not born of ignorance, he suspected, but of something far more complex. "Hold," Elder Cathar commanded, his voice suddenly firm, cutting through the growing consensus for punitive action. "We will observe. Let them breach the threshold, but our fleet will maintain defensive posture only. No offensive action until I give the direct order." A ripple of astonishment spread through the chamber. To allow a violation of hegemony space without immediate reprisal was unprecedented. Ambassador Velor's eyes flashed with indignation. "Elder, this is an unacceptable risk. It undermines the very authority of the hegemony. It sets a precedent that will invite further incursions." "And a premature engagement," Cathar countered, turning to face the ambassador directly, his 6 limbs splayed in a gesture of authority, "could set a precedent of its own. We understand nothing of their motivations, only their trajectory. Let us observe the immediate consequences of their transgression. Perhaps their vessels will simply disintegrate upon contact with our defensive fields. Or perhaps they will demonstrate true hostile intent, at which point our response will be justified and overwhelming." His words were a compromise, a veneer of caution over an instinct he could not articulate. He needed more data, a deeper understanding of this peculiar species. The silence that followed was heavy with disapproval, but Cathar's authority as the longest-serving elder was absolute. The order was given, broadcast to the patrol fleet positioned at the edge of the quarantine zone. "Hold fire." The holographic projection of the human junk fleet continued its inexorable advance. The Viridian chamber became a silent, tense theater, its occupants fixated on the slow-motion drama unfolding light years away. The quarantine boundary, shimmering red, grew closer to the leading human vessel. Moments stretched into an agonizing eternity. Then, with an almost imperceptible shimmer, the first human ship, a vessel cobbled together from what appeared to be industrial sections and jury-rigged plating, passed through the invisible barrier. No alarm klaxons blared. No defensive fields flared in response. The ship simply continued its path. "No hostile energy signature detected," the ensign Telar reported, his voice a strained whisper. "No anomalous spatial distortion, no nothing, they simply passed through." A wave of confusion swept over the delegates. The hegemony's quarantine zones were designed to repel, to disorient, to dismantle. Yet these crude human vessels, these technological aberrations, seemed entirely unaffected. "Analysis of their deflector fields," Elder Cathar ordered, a new urgency in his tone. "Did they absorb the field, repel it? What happened?" "Negative, Elder," Telar responded, his antennae twitching rapidly. "Their ships possess no discernible deflector fields of the type we employ. Their hull plating registered a momentary energy spike, then returned to baseline. It is as if the quarantine field simply flowed. Around them or through them, our sensors are struggling to interpret the interaction. This was a new anomaly, one that defied established physics. The hegemony's quarantine fields were not physical barriers. They were intricate energy matrices designed to disrupt and neutralize unauthorized transit. For a vessel to pass through them untouched suggested either an incredibly sophisticated counter-technology or a fundamental difference in their very physical reality. Neither prospect was comforting. The human fleet, now entirely within hegemony space, maintained its trajectory, heading towards the designated rendezvous point where the hegemony patrol fleet awaited. The patrol commander's urgent requests for clarification filled the chamber's audio channels, a rising note of panic in his usually stoic reports. Elder, the human vessels are now within engagement range. They continue to broadcast their intention for peaceful dialogue. Their energy signatures remain low, passive. But their penetration of the quarantine zone remains unexplained, requesting immediate tactical assessment and updated orders. Elder Cathar's multifaceted eyes narrowed, his mind racing through possibilities. To engage now, without understanding how they bypassed the quarantine, felt reckless. It was an act of aggression against an opponent who, thus far, had shown no overt hostility, only an uncanny ability to circumvent hegemony defenses. This was not a primitive species blundering into advanced territory. This was something more nuanced, more disquieting. "Maintain position," Cathar ordered, his voice echoing with renewed authority. "Continue all communication attempts. Request their specific designation for their diplomatic vessel. Inform them that hegemony protocols require them to halt and prepare for remote sensory analysis before any physical contact can be considered." The human response was swift and to the hegemony delegates profoundly unsettling. A single, small vessel, even more dilapidated and incongruous than the others, detached from the main formation. Its trajectory was direct, unerringly towards the hegemony patrol's lead cruiser. Its broadcast was simple. "This is the human diplomatic vessel designation Pioneer. We are proceeding to your coordinates as requested. We transmit our manifest for remote analysis." The manifest data flooded the hegemony systems. It was a chaotic mess of unfamiliar biological readings, atmospheric compositions, and linguistic structures. Yet among the jumbled data, a single image was clear. A bipedal humanoid, its features oddly symmetrical, its eyes conveying a startling intensity. "They are sending a single craft," Ambassador Velor stated, her voice tight with suspicion. "It could be a Trojan vessel, a stealth infiltration unit disguised as a diplomatic envoy. Their technology, though crude, is evidently capable of bypassing our most sophisticated defenses." Or, Elder Cathar mused, his gaze fixed on the approaching Pioneer, "It is an act of trust, or calculated audacity. If it is a weapon, it is a very small one." The tension in the chamber was almost unbearable as the Pioneer approached the hegemony cruiser. The patrol commander, overriding his usual protocols, ordered a full spectral scan. The results, when they flickered across the Viridian dome, were bewildering. The Pioneer was indeed small, sparsely crewed, and equipped with minimal, almost rudimentary defensive systems. Its propulsion was a scaled-down version of the main fleet's crude fusion drive. It carried no discernible weaponry. Its only unique feature was a highly advanced, multi-frequency communication array. "They are unarmed," Ensign Tilar stammered, his antennae drooping in confusion. "Completely. Their crew consists of 3 biological units and a single low-power AI construct, likely for navigation and translation. They pose no immediate threat." "Then why the deception regarding their quarantine penetration?" Ambassador Velor challenged, her frustration evident. "Why the pretense of such rudimentary technology when they clearly possess something far more advanced?" Elder Cathar felt a chill that had nothing to do with the chamber's regulated climate. Deception implied malice. But what if it wasn't deception? What if their technology simply was rudimentary, and their ability to bypass the quarantine was merely an unforeseen consequence of its very nature? He remembered ancient historical accounts of certain subatomic particles, too small, too diffuse to interact meaningfully with larger energy fields. Could their vessels be operating on some similar, entirely alien principle? "Open a direct channel to the Pioneer," Cathar commanded, his voice firm. "Inform them that they are cleared to dock with the hegemony cruiser. Full sensor lock, full defensive readiness, but no hostile action. I wish to speak with their representative." The docking procedure was fraught with an unspoken tension. The Gemini cruiser, a vessel of elegant design and immense power, felt momentarily vulnerable as the crude Pioneer latched onto its designated airlock. The silence in the Viridian chamber was absolute, all delegates holding their breath, awaiting the first direct contact with this enigmatic species. A visual feed from the cruiser's docking bay appeared on the dome. The airlock hissed open, revealing a ramp extending into the hegemony vessel. A single figure emerged, tall and bipedal, clad in a simple utilitarian suit of dark, unadorned material. Its movements were fluid, deliberate, betraying no sign of apprehension. Its face, as shown in the close-up, was indeed human, yet it possessed a calm intensity that was unnerving. Its eyes, deep and knowing, scanned the opulent interior of the hegemony cruiser with a dispassionate curiosity. "Greetings," the human's voice, filtered through the hegemony's universal translator, was unexpectedly rich, resonant, and devoid of any overt emotion. "I am Ambassador Elena Petrova, representing the Terran Commonwealth. We thank you for this opportunity for dialogue." Her words, so simple yet so profound in their understated dignity, reverberated through the Viridian chamber. She had spoken not with the awe of an inferior, nor the bluster of an aggressor, but with the quiet authority of an equal. This was not the barbarian they had anticipated. Elder Cathar, composing himself, responded, his voice amplified throughout the cruiser and the chamber. "Ambassador Petrova, I am Elder Cathar, presiding over the Hegemony Council. You have violated a sacred quarantine zone. Your fleet, unconventional in its design, has bypassed our defenses in a manner we cannot comprehend. We require an explanation." Ambassador Petrova tilted her head slightly, a subtle gesture that seemed to convey both understanding and a hint of something else, perhaps amusement, though her face remained impassive. "Elder Cathar, we assure you the violation was unintentional. Our vessels are designed not for conflict, but for long-duration deep space exploration and resource acquisition in regions deemed underserved. Their unique construction, while appearing crude by your standards, is optimized for maximum modularity, repairability, and operational resilience in harsh, unpredictable environments. They are, in essence, highly adaptable mobile habitats, not warships." "But their ability to bypass our quarantine?" Ambassador Velor interjected, her voice sharp with suspicion. Petrova turned her gaze towards the holographic projection of the Viridian chamber, her eyes seeming to pierce the light years separating them. "Ah, your energy-based containment fields. A fascinating application of localized subspace manipulation. However, our vessels, particularly their outer hulls, are largely composed of a re-engineered carbon silicate matrix, incorporating a highly porous, self-repairing metamaterial. This material, combined with an active vibration dampening system, allows for a unique quantum-level interaction with energy fields. Essentially, the energy, instead of impacting a solid surface, diffuses through the countless microscopic voids and resonant frequencies within the hull structure. It's akin to trying to catch smoke in a net woven of light. Your fields simply pass through us, or rather we pass through them with minimal energy transfer." A collective gasp, a rustle of disbelief, swept through the Viridian chamber. The explanation, while couched in unfamiliar terminology, suddenly illuminated the baffling anomaly. Their crude technology was not crude at all. It was simply different, evolved along a divergent path, optimized for different challenges. The hegemony, in its pursuit of elegant, unified energy fields, had inadvertently created a defense that was utterly ineffective against a technology designed for resilience through diffusion. "This metamaterial, is this common among your people?" Elder Cathar asked, a new respect dawning in his tone. "It is a foundational element of our deep space fleet architecture," Petrova confirmed. "Our home system is resource-poor in traditional metallic ores, but rich in volatile carbon and silicates. Necessity, as the ancient saying goes, is the mother of invention." "And the junk fleet designation?" Ambassador Velor pressed, her suspicion unyielding. "The mismatched components, the apparent lack of standardization." Ambassador Petrova allowed herself a small, almost imperceptible smile. "That, Ambassador, is a testament to human ingenuity and practicality. Each vessel is a culmination of generations of modifications, repairs, and upgrades, often utilizing salvaged or locally fabricated components. We do not discard a vessel simply because a component fails or becomes obsolete. We repair, we adapt, we enhance. Our fleet is a living, evolving testament to endurance. What you perceive as haphazard, we view as robust, adaptable, and self-sufficient. Every vessel tells a story of survival and innovation. It is an extension of our spirit. The philosophical depth of her statement struck the delegates with unexpected force. The hegemony, in its quest for perfection, often discarded anything less than ideal. The humans, it seemed, found strength in imperfection, in adaptation. "Your intentions, Ambassador?" Elder Cathar asked, his voice now devoid of suspicion, replaced by a profound curiosity. "Why traverse such a vast distance? Why approach the hegemony?" "Our long-duration missions are designed to locate potentially habitable exoplanets and explore regions for critical resource deposits beyond our established territories," Petrova explained. "We encountered remnants of an ancient stellar cartography archive, far beyond anything our own people possessed. It indicated a dense cluster of M-class stars within this sector, potentially rich in heavy elements. Your quarantine zone, Elder, merely marked the boundary of a region we had already identified as a prime candidate for future expansion. We were simply following the oldest impulse of sentient life, exploration. We seek no conflict, only understanding, and if possible, mutually beneficial cooperation." "And if we refuse this cooperation?" Ambassador Velor challenged, unwilling to entirely relinquish her skepticism. "If we demand your retreat from hegemony space?" Ambassador Petrova's calm gaze met Velor's multifaceted eyes directly. "Then we will, regrettably, be forced to consider our options. Our primary mission is the long-term survival and prosperity of our species. We will not compromise that. However, we have come in peace, offering the hand of diplomacy first. We believe that shared knowledge, technology, and resources will benefit all involved. We have much to learn from your ancient civilization, and perhaps you might find something of value in our adaptable pragmatism." The weight of her words settled upon the Viridian chamber. The threat was subtle, unspoken, yet undeniably present. It was not a threat of overwhelming force, but of an unyielding will, a stubborn refusal to be deterred, a species that had forged strength from perceived weakness. They were not fragile barbarians to be easily brushed aside. They were resilient, resourceful, and utterly determined. Elder Cathar, feeling a profound shift in the very atmosphere of the chamber, raised one of his 6 limbs in a gesture of contemplation. "Ambassador Petrova, your explanation has clarified much, yet it has also raised new questions. The hegemony values order, stability, and adherence to established protocols. Your methods, while effective, deviate significantly from these principles. We require time to deliberate. In the interim, your diplomatic vessel and fleet may remain within the designated, monitored sector. No further unauthorized movements. Agreed." "Agreed, Elder," Petrova responded, a hint of something resembling relief in her eyes, though her posture remained perfectly composed. "We respect your need for deliberation. We await your decision." The channel closed. The image of Ambassador Petrova faded from the Viridian dome, replaced once more by the stark reality of the human junk fleet resting within hegemony space. The silence that followed was different now, no longer tinged with fear or disdain, but with a complex blend of grudging respect, profound curiosity, and a lingering sense of disquiet. "Elder Cathar," Ambassador Velor finally spoke, her voice still sharp but lacking its earlier arrogance. "Their explanation for the quarantine penetration is difficult to refute, but their fleet, while seemingly benign, represents an unknown quantity within our borders. What if their pragmatism extends to military applications we cannot perceive?" "Indeed," Counselor ZHR added, his metallic voice devoid of emotional inflection, yet carrying the weight of logical concern. "Their communication arrays are highly sophisticated. Their vessels are resilient. Their diplomatic representative possesses a formidable intellect and an unwavering conviction. We underestimated them based on superficial analysis. That error must not be repeated." Elder Cathar turned to face the assembled delegates, his expression grave. "We did not merely underestimate their technology, esteemed colleagues. We underestimated their very nature. We judged them by our own metrics of perfection, efficiency, and order. We failed to comprehend a species that finds strength in improvisation, in the very act of adapting and enduring. Their junk fleet is not a sign of weakness. It is a symbol of their resilience, their determination to survive and thrive regardless of the challenges." He paused, letting his words sink in. The Viridian chamber, once a bastion of hegemony certainty, now felt like a crucible of re-evaluation. "Their presence here is no longer a simple incursion. It is a profound challenge to our understanding of ourselves and of the diverse forms that and capability can take in this galaxy. We must consider this not merely a diplomatic incident, but a pivotal moment in hegemonic history. We must decide if we will embrace the unfamiliar, or if we will retreat into the comfort of our established paradigms. The ensuing deliberation stretched over several cycles, a maelstrom of philosophical debate, strategic simulations, and intense psychological profiling of the human delegation. The initial shock slowly gave way to a grudging admiration for human resourcefulness. The hegemony's top scientists, initially scoffing at the metamaterial explanation, were forced to reevaluate their understanding of quantum energy fields. Simulations designed to breach the junk fleet's defenses using conventional weaponry yielded inconclusive results, often showing energy dissipation rather than destruction. The human ships, though slow and lacking heavy armament, proved incredibly difficult to effectively target and disable. During this period of intense scrutiny, Ambassador Petrova maintained her calm composure, responding to all hegemony queries with disarming honesty and remarkable patience. She shared detailed, albeit heavily redacted, schematics of their vessels, construction, explanations of their societal structure, and historical accounts of their species, tumultuous journey from a war-torn homeworld to a unified starfaring power. Each piece of information, carefully vetted by hegemony intelligence, painted a picture of a species forged in adversity, driven by an almost irrational optimism, and possessing a deeply ingrained capacity for collective action. One particular detail, relayed by the hegemony's psychological analysts, caused a significant stir within the Viridian chamber. Humans, despite their apparent calm, harbored a profound reverence for concepts of freedom and self-determination. They saw their expansion not as an act of conquest, but as a natural imperative, a quest for new horizons, driven by an insatiable curiosity and a deep-seated desire to ensure the long-term survival of their species. This clashed sharply with the hegemony's more controlled, collective-oriented societal models, where individual ambition was often sublimated for the greater good of the unified whole. Their motivations are not entirely dissimilar to our own, Elder Cathar observed during one particularly intense council session. The desire for survival, for stability, for prosperity, but their methods, their approach to achieving these ends, are markedly different. They embrace change, even chaos, as a catalyst for evolution. And their adaptability, Counselor ZHR noted, his analytical core sifting through the human data, is unprecedented. Their capacity for rapid technological iteration, their ability to integrate disparate components and concepts, surpasses any known civilization in our historical archives. What they lack in initial elegance, they compensate for in evolutionary velocity. The concept of evolutionary velocity sent a shiver through the delegates. The hegemony had achieved its stability through millennia of refinement, slow and deliberate progress. The humans, it seemed, moved at a different pace, a frantic, almost desperate rate of innovation, driven by a history of near-extinction events. Finally, after weeks of intense deliberation, Elder Cathar convened the Viridian Council for a decision. The air was thick with anticipation. The initial fear had been replaced by a cautious respect, a recognition that this new species, these humans, could not be dismissed. Esteemed delegates, Elder Cathar began, his voice resonating with newfound gravity. We stand at a precipice. The Terran Commonwealth has presented itself to us not as a conquering force but as an inquiring one. They seek not to dominate but to explore, to connect. Their junk fleet, a testament to their resilience and ingenuity, has breached our secure space without hostile intent, demonstrating a technological philosophy utterly alien to our own. He paused, letting the implications sink in. We have three paths before us. First, we can declare them a threat, attempt to forcibly repel them, and risk an unpredictable, potentially devastating conflict with a species whose operational parameters we still do not fully comprehend. Second, we can tolerate their presence, allowing them limited access under strict hegemonic supervision, but deny full diplomatic recognition, maintaining an uneasy, distant truce. Or third, we can extend to them the hand of full diplomatic engagement, acknowledge their sovereignty, and seek to integrate them into the wider galactic community, sharing knowledge and resources in the spirit of mutual advancement. Ambassador Velor, surprisingly, spoke first, her tone devoid of its earlier vitriol. Elder, while I still harbor reservations regarding their unconventional methods, the data is undeniable. They are not easily deterred nor easily defeated. Their capacity for rapid adaptation makes them a formidable unknown. To engage in open conflict would be a gamble of unprecedented scale. To maintain a distant truce would be to invite future misunderstandings, given their inherent drive for exploration. I advocate for the third path, for diplomacy, for integration, but with extreme caution and comprehensive intelligence gathering. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. The shift was profound. The hegemony, once so certain of its own superiority, had been forced to confront its blind spots, its ingrained biases. The junk fleet had not annihilated their armada with weapons, but with the sheer force of its unexpected existence, with its calm, unwavering defiance of all hegemonic expectations. "Then it is decided," Elder Cathar declared, a sense of weighty relief in his voice. "We will extend the offer of full diplomatic relations to the Terran Commonwealth. We will establish protocols for their continued exploration within designated sectors and initiate knowledge exchange programs. We will learn from their pragmatism, and they, perhaps, will learn from our stability." The decision was broadcast to the human fleet. Ambassador Petrova's response was immediate and concise. "The Terran Commonwealth accepts with profound gratitude. We look forward to a future of peaceful coexistence and mutual growth." The immediate tension had dissipated, replaced by a cautious optimism. The hegemony and the Terran Commonwealth began the long, complex process of cultural and technological exchange. Human engineers, with their pragmatic approach, found ingenious solutions to long-standing hegemony technical challenges, often through unexpected combinations of existing components. Hegemony scientists, in turn, opened new vistas of theoretical physics and astrophysics to their human counterparts. Months later, a joint hegemony-Terran scientific expedition was dispatched to a previously uncharted nebula, a region of swirling gas and nascent stars that had long defied detailed hegemony analysis due to its unique energy signature. The human vessels, with their unique metamaterial hulls, proved invaluable in navigating the nebula's dense energy fields, allowing the joint team to penetrate deeper than ever before. Deep within the nebula, beyond the farthest reaches of known space, the sensors of the joint fleet began to register an anomaly. It was not a natural phenomenon nor a nascent star. It was a signal, an ancient, faint, yet undeniably artificial pulse emanating from the nebula's heart. "Elder Cathar," Ambassador Petrova's voice, now familiar and trusted, echoed in the Viridian chamber projected from the lead human exploration vessel, the Voyager. "We have detected an incredibly powerful, incredibly ancient energy signature. It is not a natural emission. It is a deliberate broadcast." The Viridian chamber once again fell silent. The sense of foreboding, long dormant, returned with renewed intensity. The signal was unlike anything the hegemony had ever encountered. It was too complex, too structured, too vast in its data capacity to be from any known civilization. "Can you decode it, Ambassador?" Cathar asked, his multifaceted eyes fixed on the new anomaly projected onto the dome. "We are attempting to," Petrova replied, a rare note of awe in her voice. "But the encryption is layers upon layers of an unknown linguistic and mathematical structure. It's like trying to understand the universe itself. However, our preliminary analysis indicates two things. Its power source is immense, unlike anything we can fathom, and its age predates the rise of every known galactic civilization by countless millennia. This signal, it's a relic of an age before our age." As the joint fleet approached the source, the signal intensified, resolving into a more coherent stream of data. The hegemony and human AI translation matrices worked in concert, struggling to decipher the ancient message. Days turned into weeks. The nebula, once a beautiful, ethereal expanse, now felt like a shroud, concealing a profound secret. Then a breakthrough. A partial translation, a fragment of data flickered onto the Viridian dome. It was an image, a colossal structure spanning star systems radiating an impossible amount of energy. It was not a starship nor a station. It was a cosmic engine, a construct of unimaginable scale and purpose. And beneath the image, a single, terrifying word, translated imperfectly but with chilling clarity: warning. "What is this structure?" Ambassador Velor whispered, her voice barely audible. "We don't know," Petrova responded, her voice tight with tension. "But the signal, it appears to be a distress beacon, or perhaps a final testament. The partial translation implies a catastrophic event, an entity or force capable of extinguishing suns. The structure itself is a kind of defensive shield or perhaps a prison, but whatever it was designed to contain or PR. Odict against, the message implies it failed. The full horror of the situation began to unfold. This ancient signal was not a greeting from a lost civilization. It was a desperate cry from a cosmic graveyard, a warning of a force so destructive, so absolute, that it annihilated its creators and left behind only this faint echo. The junk fleet had not merely penetrated a quarantine zone. It had, by its very nature, served as the catalyst for discovering a truth that transcended the hegemony, the Terran Commonwealth, and every known civilization. The initial fear of the humans and their junk fleet had been a mere shadow compared to the terror that now gripped the Viridian Chamber. The squabbles over territory and protocol seemed trivial in the face of this cosmic threat. The hegemony and the Terran Commonwealth, once suspicious rivals, were now bound by a shared existential dread. Elder Cathar turned to the image of Ambassador Petrova, his 6 limbs splayed in a gesture of profound respect and urgency. Ambassador, your people, with their boundless curiosity, their drive to explore, have led us to this. We now face a threat that overshadows all previous conflicts. What is your assessment? What is the human perspective on this? Warning. Ambassador Petrova's face, etched with gravity, appeared on the dome. Elder, the Terran Commonwealth has always understood that the universe is vast and often indifferent. We have faced extinction before on our own homeworld. We have learned that survival is not guaranteed, but we have also learned that unity and an unwavering commitment to adapt and innovate are our greatest strengths. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the stunned faces of the hegemony delegates. This ancient warning is terrifying, yes, but it is also a testament to a civilization that tried, that fought, that left behind a message for those who would follow. We do not know what awaits us or what force extinguished their stars, but we do know this: humanity will not face it alone. The junk fleet was built for endurance, for resilience, for the long journey, and now that journey truly begins. We offer our full ingenuity, our adaptability, and our unwavering spirit to this new, shared challenge. We offer to stand with the hegemony, not as allies of convenience, but as partners in survival. Her words, simple and profound, resonated through the Viridian Chamber, silencing the fear, replacing it with a quiet, resolute determination. The hegemony, in its long history, had never truly faced an existential threat that required such a complete reevaluation of its principles, such a profound alliance with an unknown. But now they did. And it was the junk fleet, the symbol of human resilience and pragmatic survival, that had led them to this moment, a moment of terrifying revelation and unprecedented unity. The galaxy was far vaster, far more ancient, and far more dangerous than any of them had ever imagined. And humanity, with its stubborn, adaptable spirit, was ready to face it. The laughter at their junk fleet had died, replaced by a profound respect and a shared, silent prayer for the future. The hegemony and the Terran Commonwealth, 2 civilizations from disparate origins, now stood together, bound by a cosmic warning, facing an unknown darkness that dwarfed all their previous fears. The true test of their unity and of humanity's unconventional strength had only just begun.